Well, here we go, guys. First overnight since my COVID experience. So I've been taking it kind of easy, staying close to home, just trying not to push my luck. And I decided today to break out. There's a little bit of a primitive camp that I wanted to check out. We actually saw it in one of the last videos I did. It was flooded, and I said after I got out of the hospital and after I got done with everything I was doing, that I wanted to come check it out and maybe do an overnight in it. So I packed up my gear, just kind of wanted to get everything out of the bag and see what I've got and where I'm at and what I need. And it's a beautiful day, about 85 degrees, and it's supposed to get down to about 63 tonight, probably where I'm at, closer to 60 tonight. So it's going to be a real nice cool night, and I got a late start, so I don't know that I'll get any foraging in the night. It'll probably just be set up and maybe make some dinner. And but maybe in the morning, there's a couple trails near I'd like to explore and see if they're underwater yet. So I'm going to head in here and see if that camp's underwater yet. Beautiful day. It's definitely drier in here than the last time. Last time I was here, this was all underwater, or this next part up here was, and now it's real dry, so that gives me a little optimism. Oh man, this is all dry now. I was worried about my feet getting wet. But this was, if you remember, all of this was underwater last time we were here. Look at this beautiful camp. 4 picnic tables. Fire pits. It's all shaded in here. One question I had was a couple good trees for the hammock, and I think right there, those are our volunteers. Perfect. Man, this is nice. So this is a primitive campsite, and it's free to use, which is my favorite price. So, again, kind of wanted to come out tonight. Wasn't sure if I was going to do this. I got a late start. Sometimes, especially with me being home for so long now, it's been hard to motivate myself to get out and do things. My kayaking, fishing experience recently took a lot to get me to get that kayak in the water. And it's because I haven't been doing anything for so long. So I really procrastinated today. I went back and forth on whether I want to do this. Finally, I did the same thing as I did with the kayaking trip. I said, I'm putting my gear in the truck. I'm going to go to the campsite, check it out. And if I don't feel like it, then I won't do it. And what's nice about this spot, now it's a little bit of a drive from my house, but it's probably 25 minutes from my house. However, it's just a few minutes from town. This is actually a wildlife preserve, and it's like, I don't know if you can hear it, but I can hear the cars going by on the main road, which is just right over here. So we're real close, but it's very primitive. It's absolutely free. It's a first come, first serve. You have to, well, that's not true. You have to reserve it online, but first come, first serve on the reservations. And this time of year, it's very wet. And so I think oftentimes, and we're kind of in between the touristy season and the hot summer months. And so this is a great time to get out and explore the woods. There's a lot less people out. You can get a little privacy. A lot of times you can get the campsites. This time of year with the bugs, you can see me doing a little bit of a dance. So I'll probably be wearing some bug spray tonight, because it's in this, especially as much water was here just a couple weeks ago. I'm sure the mosquitoes will be pretty thick. So I'm going to start getting set up, and then I think I'm going to have plenty of time for a nice dinner. I brought some fish that I caught here locally, and we're going to do kind of a forager's chowder. So, all right, I'm going to get this giant pack off my back, and get to setting up some stuff. Man, I will tell you what, guys, having that picnic table there, that's life of luxury. I am used to hauling that pack in deep into the woods, having to work on the ground, and which is fine, that's awesome, but it's been a long time since I had full use of picnic tables, and I'm hoping I can find some down wood around here and maybe have a little fire tonight. It's that time of year, it'd be beautiful. So, but I'll tell you what, having that picnic table, that's the way to go. I gotta get back to work. Put that right in the bag tonight. Keep it from sliding around. Last time I was out, I did not do that. And I did have some issues with it sliding. That's one thing. Those of you that have done hammock camping, and for those of you who haven't, bedding can be a bit of a challenge, especially if you're trying to keep your pack light. So normally I have a real small sleeping bag. It gets down that big, and the problem is it's also, because of that, it's also a really light sleeping bag. So this one doesn't pack down as small, and putting things in the hammock can be kind of an acquired art, and it's kind of a learning curve as you go. So if you get out and if you're just starting to do this, don't get frustrated. It's easy to do that early on, because the sleeping bag will fight you, the hammock will fight you, the screen, the bug screen, that'll fight you, the tarp will fight you, everything's going to fight you. Think of it as a learning experience, and that's all it is. That's what's great about this urban camping. Staying close to home, having resources nearby, discovering these little spots where you can sneak in and spend a night, or something like this where you can reserve a primitive site and get out and set all this stuff up, but know that, if you get into any trouble or get too uncomfortable, it's not too hard to get out. And but I guess the main point I wanted to say is don't get frustrated with it, because it's a learning curve. I've been doing this for quite some time, and I'm still learning a little bit at a time, and that's great. That's part of the fun of this. So I'm gonna get back and make sure that sleeping bag's set up, and then get my pack kind of organized. And I got some more work to do. I want to get some firewood put together, because I would like to have a fire tonight, and kind of get dinner organized. Make sure I've got my cook stove. I know it works. I tested before I came, and once I get everything set up, I'll bring you back in. Hopefully somewhere in this pack is my happy hour. Hope I remembered that. So I'll see you in a bit. I'll tell you what, I've only seen this once before, but I think I probably said this in one of my other videos. This is one of the best little things I ever bought. This is just a real small, it's like a miniature pillow. And I've got an old pillowcase that I found at the house that we just don't use anymore. It doesn't match anything. And it is super light, squishes down, super small. But I'll tell you what, that makes a heck of a difference. Like I said, it's going to fight you. Make sure that if you're doing this, you zip up that mosquito netting. It's real easy, especially if you're just starting out. It's real easy to forget that. You get caught up in getting your stuff organized. Maybe you're thinking about time and dinner and firewood, and you leave that open. The whole point of that is to keep them out. So if you leave it open and then go in to get in there for at night, makes for a uncomfortable experience. That is a lifesaver, that bug netting, because it just makes sleeping, again, I've talked about this in my other videos too. I want to be comfortable when I'm out here, and you're always looking for that balance between comfort and how much weight you're carrying in, how much stuff you're bringing in. But I want to be comfortable. I want to enjoy it. If I don't sleep, if I'm chewed up by bugs all night long, if I'm freezing, I'm not going to enjoy it. This is not bushcraft video. This is not a survivalist video. This is sneaking out not too far from town and doing a little overnight camping. So back to it. All right, guys. The boudoir is set. It's kind of a slapstick setup. I'll tell you, just a moment on tarps. I have used all kinds of tarps. I've used just the cheap dollar store blue ones. I've used an upgraded version of those, some brown ones. And this one here I've had for a while. And it's worked pretty well. It's starting to tear out some of the eyelets. And that's one of the problems you have with the less expensive ones. And, in the past, I've always brought my own stakes. I don't currently have any that I bring with. And so I'm just making my own. I'm just tying it off. I tied it off on this picnic table and over there at the palm trees. And on the back side there, I tied one to a tree and then made one stake on that corner. I don't expect any wind. I don't expect any rain tonight. Weatherman has predicted that it's clear as a bell for the next few days. But, and so I really wouldn't even need this tarp. The reason I do put it up is for, especially this time of year, is dew. And it doesn't matter why you're wet when you wake up. If you wake up wet, that's uncomfortable. And it's so easy to throw a tarp up that why not do it? It's a little bit of work and a lot of reward, and just makes things more comfortable. And my pack fell down. Good thing it's getting emptier. But especially for you, people that are just starting this, I do want to say, don't set up your tarp this way. If you're out especially for your first time, kind of a cheesy stake. So this is going to hold up, when you put it in, give it a few yanks. That's going to hold up a little bit of wind. I'm back in the woods here, pretty enclosed, so I don't expect, even if the wind came up, it's not going to cause me any issues. But if you're out, especially if you hike in, and if you don't secure that tarp properly, that can make for a heck of a bad night. And I'll tell you what, it happens at 2 o'clock in the morning when you're really kind of stuck, and that's not the best thing to do. So a couple little things on tarps. Either have good stakes with you that you can screw into the ground, or be very good at making your own stakes. And that would require going out and getting some wood, and preferably maybe some green wood. Otherwise it'll snap pretty easily. But you can buy plastic stakes. They're very lightweight, and those will work pretty well. And or again, just get real adept at making your own stakes. Otherwise, you've got to find enough trees to secure everything too. When you secure it, make sure that you run an arc so that if it rains, the moisture will flow off of that tarp. And make sure that you've got a good bridge in the center. The best thing for that is to run a line, from tree to tree. and then put your tarp over that line. Make it nice and tight. Put the tarp over the line. I have the tarp tied because, again, I'm not expecting any weather tonight. And I'm really close to my truck, so if something came in that wasn't supposed to, it's pretty easy for me to get out of here. I don't expect anything. So run a line across tree to tree, and then put the tarp over that. Then if you want, you can tie those corners, just to kind of secure it in place if you want, and then tie your 4 corners down. And again, give yourself a good arc, because what you want is that rain shedding off of there real easily. You don't want it to pool up. The last stealth camp I did, the stealth camp fail, I knew there was weather around. It just wasn't supposed to come in until about noon. And of course, it came in well before noon, and it hit me in about midnight. And that was the problem I had with the tarp, is I didn't, I had the trees too small that the hammock was on, so there was a bow in there, and it allowed the water to pool up on the tarp. And that quickly became a problem in the rain. So if you don't want that, take the time and get these tarps set up right before you settle in, especially if you're there, if you're a long way in, or if you're going to do a couple days, because the tarp really, really makes life nice. So just a thought on that. I'm going to get back to getting things unpacked and set up. All right. Now I've got a lot of gear here with me today, and one of the things I like to bring with, I even got Dozer's water bowl, even though he's not with me today. I like to bring a nice pair of gloves. Now I buy these Maxi Flex gloves, and I really like them. They're not warm, so if you're in cold climate, they're not going to help you out there. But you can get them wet, and they dry really fast. You can actually, I can use these while I'm fishing, get my hands wet, and never take them off. But they are tough, and so they work really nice, especially if you're going to be cutting some wood or something like that. During setup, it works really, really nice. A couple of things that I have in my pack, and again, I'm kind of checking. Of course, I've got my jet boil, my stove. I brought the larger fuel today. My small pack, my day pack, has a small camp stove in it, and that's got the smaller fuel with it. And so I just brought the big one because I knew I wasn't going too far, and I had the big pack. I always bring a couple garbage bags, shop towels. I don't bring paper towels. I bring the blue shop towels. They're like a paper towel, only they're a heck of a lot stronger, and they absorb a heck of a lot more. And they're cheap. You get a whole roll of them for about $2 at Walmart, and they work really well. Of course, emergency toilet paper, fire starting kit. I don't, some of you guys have seen me. I don't use anything too primitive. I've got a nice lighter, and I've got, I do have a flint in here. I rarely ever use it, but I do have some cotton balls that are covered in petroleum jelly to get things started. Again, I like comfort. I want it to start easily, so if I can do a little prep work up front and it makes life a little easier for me while I'm out here, I'm going to do it. Of course, a little bug spray, especially when you're around these swamps. I always bring a first aid kit. This is something you see a lot of debate on. I don't even know what this weighs, an ounce, it's very lightweight. But if I got into trouble, I at least got something in there. And so I packed in just some basic bandages, some antibiotic cream, a wrap, so I could wrap around if I maybe cut my arm with my knife or something, or a saw or an axe. One towel. Just went to Walmart, bought the cheapest, $1, $2 towels they had. Bought it in black, and I like to have a towel with me. That's a comfort. A lot of people probably wouldn't bring one, but I like to have one. So, a little bit of a breeze in here, a little more than I expected. So that's about all I have in here, other than my sleeping gear. For my meal, I just bought a little soft side cooler and put a couple little ice packs in that, and that works pretty slick. It's a little heavier than I like, and I only do that if it's something like this where it's real convenient, where I'm not going very far. If I'm going to hike 12 miles and put up a hammock, I'm not bringing this. I'm bringing lighter weight food, you know, probably some dehydrated stuff, meal packs, something like that. But for something like this where I'm just hiking a little ways and you know, it's close to town, if I've got the room, I'll put a couple ice packs in there. I've been known to stick a beer in there from time to time. Aha! And so that's my happy hour tonight. So normally I don't bring in stuff like this, but that's actually not ginger ale. Well, it is ginger ale, but you know, it's about yay much ginger ale. So it's actually a spiced rum and ginger. That's my happy hour tonight. So I figure that's about the right size. One happy hour, you know, before bed. Just something, little cocktail before bed. Normally I carry large plastic water bottles. I like to reuse them a lot of times. Today this was a quick pack and go, and again, being close to town, I wasn't going to need a lot of water. My dinner tonight is going to consist of, it actually has coconut milk that I've brought in a little container, and so I won't need much water. If I'm, you know, usually I'm doing dehydrated meals, and or I'm getting foraged greens and stuff and making, you know, a base out of the water. But I won't need much water for this trip here tonight. So I brought about 3 bottles of water, and again, my happy hour. And that's about it. I mean, I've got a little hand saw that I bring in. I brought a little light for the hammock. It's just a real tiny one, but it's got like a little lantern feature on it. Of course, I've got a high power flashlight. So if I had to get out of here, or if I were to encounter any wildlife, I've got this thing will light them up like a Christmas tree. And of course, I got Old Faithful with me, the hog hunter. Always have a good knife. You know, I can cut wood with that thing, cut steak, you know, steak posts, and if I had to, I could defend myself with it. So I always have a good knife. You know, I bring a couple knives actually. I've got a small folding pocket knife, so always good. You can't go wrong with a good knife. There's a lot of uses for them. So that's about all I've got with me, and I gotta check the time. I might actually have time to do a little bit of a hike, so we'll have to see. There actually is a few mushrooms popping up even just around here. Nothing I can eat, but it's kind of encouraging to see. Check this out, guys. And underneath the picnic table, there's one. I think I saw one over here. Oh yeah. Those aren't anything we're gonna cook for dinner, but it's encouraging to see a few mushrooms around. Like I said, maybe we'll get out and do a little bit of a forage before it gets dark. Not a bad camp. Well, guys, I decided to do a little bit of wandering before the sun gets too low. You can see it's dipping down below the trees. I always forget this time of year that we have such a such an early sunset, but that's okay. That's all right. I don't mind cooking in the dark, so it'll be just fine. I love walking this time of night. You know, the birds are out. Oftentimes the wildlife is out and about, so I thought I'd just take a little walk, stretch my legs, and enjoy the evening. Apparently he didn't want to be videoed. Oh, there he is. You can see him there. There he is. So that's enough of that. Little red-headed woodpecker. beauty berries. Quite a stock of them there. Something just ran in the woods there in front of us. Almost looked like an oriole. Oh, look at that. Oh, they're dry. Those are old. Look at this young one here. Huh. Not sure. Is that a worm? Not sure what that is, but there's a bunch of them there. They're all pretty dry. Like about 2 days old maybe on those. Might have to find out what that species of mushroom is. I saw quite a few more. Probably a half dozen more. You know, as I was walking. They're all a little old. Like I said, it looks like a couple days ago, maybe as the water receded. But interesting, quite a few of them. If anybody knows, put something down in the comments. Keep walking here a little bit, and then it's going to get, I think my feet are actually maybe getting a little damp. So we'll head back to camp. Plus the mosquitoes have discovered that only certain spots have a bug spray on them. Man, is it beautiful out. We're back now a ways. Ooh, what was that? Back away from the road a ways now. Nice and quiet. About the only thing you got is the birds singing. There's an owl hooting at me a little bit ago. Man, what a beautiful night. I'd wager it's 80 degrees maybe, but no humidity. So, and there's a little breeze, so it's like the perfect 80. Wild coffee. Man, it's all along here. There's a trail in here. It's a wild coffee trail. I guess I see why. Well, the wildlife wasn't participating, except for one rabbit who streaked across the trail in front of me. Too fast to even get him on film. Home sweet home. That's alright, it's getting dark. It's getting time to get some supper on. I'm kind of getting hungry, especially after walking around a little bit. So I think it's time to get some fires, or get the supper started. I keep everything in plastic, just in case. You never know what you're going to get into. And once you're here, I don't like to have any issues, so plastic works out well. Ice packs are still nice and frozen. That's good. I've got breakfast in there as well. So tonight, what we're going to do is I brought some, like I said, some coconut milk, and I've actually got some fish that I caught here locally, and it's in here with lemon juice. So I put the lemon juice in, put the fish on it, put some more lemon juice over the fish, and then coconut milk. And then the filler for it is some wild forage mushrooms. These are some of the dehydrated ones from the dehydrator. And there's some greens, there's some finely chopped potatoes, seasoned up with some of the seaweed and sea salt harvested from the Gulf here, and some pepper grass harvested here locally, and then just some onion, garlic, pepper, things like that. No lorries, turmeric, and a couple other things like that. So, so that's dinner. So, wild caught fish and wild foraged mushrooms. So, kind of a forager's stew, you could call it. Let's see if I can do this without making a terrible mess. Alright, let's get that started. Mosquitoes are starting to find me. I might have to get a fire going. I do have bug spray with me like I showed earlier, so it's not that big of a deal. Alright. I'll turn that down just a hair. So that was a nice walk. The sun is starting to drop down, and like I said, I didn't see any wildlife. Found those just a few mushrooms that I showed you on video. Nothing that I would take back. Even if those were edible, they were dry, and so I didn't spend much time with them. And I definitely have a note for my foraging journal here, and that is, the boletes really seem to be prevalent earlier in the year. There's times, well, I mean, if you've watched my videos, there's times we got 40, 50 boletes in an hour, and then, at least 40 of them edible. And so when those rains kick in after the dry spell, those boletes really tend to pop. And of course, the indigos and other things pop as well. And this time of year, I don't see that as much. Not that you don't see boletes, I certainly do, but they seem to be less. And I do see a few different species, so I'm going to have to start taking some better notes in this fall season and fall-winter season when we do get our sporadic rains, and see what comes out of the ground. So it's always interesting, and it's always good to take notes and kind of learn as you go. All right. Oh, that smells good. It smells good already. Now the wild mushrooms are dehydrated, so they're going to have to cook for a little while. Wow, I tell you what, that was a good guess. That just fits that pan. I almost went with a little bit bigger container. I don't think that would have worked out well for me. So like I said, the dehydrated mushrooms, they're going to have to cook a little bit. So what I'll do, I've got everything just put together. So normally, if you're at home and you want to rehydrate mushrooms, you're going to get some water to boiling, pour them on the mushrooms, let them sit for about 15-20 minutes. That's the best way to do it. You don't have to do that. I do throw them into a lot of foods, a lot of curries and things. So I'll just throw them in here. I'll probably add a little bit of water to this just to thin out that coconut milk a little bit. But basically, I'll just let this cook for 10-15 minutes and soften up those mushrooms and cook that fish well, and then we'll be good to go. And meanwhile, while I wait for that, I don't see any reason why a guy shouldn't have a little bit of happy hour. So again, this is spiced rum and ginger ale. So a rum and ginger. Normally I'd pour that over a little ice, but since we're out here today, I didn't bring any ice cubes. I could have probably thrown a few in, but this was actually cold when I left the house. So we'll do about half now and about half after dinner. Once I get that fire going, I'll be ready. I'll be ready for one. So, well, I'm going to get this boiling and let it simmer for a little bit and poke around the camp, but I'll bring you back in here in a bit once we get settled in. So, see you then. Not a bad looking supper. Cheers. Oh yeah, not a bad way to wait for supper to get ready. All right, let's see what we can do here. There's that little piece of cotton. Tuck it underneath whatever you want it to burn. Now it's going to catch, and that's going to burn for a while. So we'll pull some of that over it, and we'll just let it go. That petroleum on that will burn for quite some time. So that's all there is to it. That petroleum trick works fabulous. So what I really like, so this is pretty easy. I could have probably lit those palm prawns with a match. They probably would have went. They're so dry. And but it's nice because I set it on a piece of bark and just slid it down inside, and then I light that, and then like I said, that'll burn quite a while. It'll burn several minutes on its own, and so it really works good if you have damp starting material. If it's been raining a lot lately or whatnot, it's just, again, because it just keeps burning, so eventually it'll dry out and ignite whatever it is you're trying to burn. It's just a great, simple, affordable, foolproof way to get a fire going, and it weighs nothing. You can put 5 or 6 of those in a plastic bag with a lighter, and you've got fires for several days. And again, they're pretty much foolproof. So as you can see, I haven't even got the wood burning yet. It's just burning through the bark and other raw materials, but not a problem. So I'm going to enjoy this fire a little bit, and the dinner is still cooking away, so finish my drink. Oh man, I'll tell you what, that is looking good. So I did not end up adding any water into it. It's making a nice thick stew-like gravy, which again, we called it forager stew. So that works out really well. And I just tasted it, and it is amazing. The lemon, I squeezed in a little bit of lemon, like I said. That's what the fish sat in while I traveled. And that really gives it a nice zing to it. but you can really taste the seaweed, the saltiness of the seaweed. And I forgot to mention, I also have dried moringa root. So that gives it a little interesting kick to it. Kind of a horseradishy, but not really. It is, I just sampled it. The potatoes aren't quite done yet, but I'm telling you guys, it tastes fabulous. There is nothing better than cooking in the woods. I don't know what it is that makes it taste better, but it does. So I'm going to give this probably another 5 minutes, and then it'll be ready. All right, our work is done, my friends. I do love cooking out in the woods. Again, I don't know what it is about it, but something about cooking in the woods just brings you joy. If you haven't done it, try it. And if you don't, if you're not comfortable, find someone who'll take you with them. And there's just nothing better. And if you can cook something that you've foraged or fished or hunted, again, nothing better than that. So again, wild mushrooms, wild harvested fish here from the Gulf, the salt and the seaweed are harvested here at the Gulf. The peppergrass was harvested locally here. And so I would say 60% of this I foraged myself. Ooh, the mosquitoes are finding me. I'm sweating a little bit after working and getting the fire going, and that must be taking the bug spray off. So I've just let this sit and settle. Now again, I didn't add any water to this. It made a nice stew. I mean, that coconut milk really cooked down well, and it's just a good thick stew. The lemon really pops out, and I like that. If you don't like lemon, that's not the way to go, but I like that. It makes it really nice, especially with the fish. And the fish was Jack Crevalle, young Jack Crevalle. So Jack Crevalle can be kind of interesting to cook anyway. A lot of people say they're junk fish and you can't eat them. I disagree. I actually really enjoy them. But they have to be cleaned right, and they have to be cooked right. And I saw this comment, I don't remember where it was now, but it was something about, you know, there's no bad food, there's just bad cooks. So, and I can be a bad cook, don't get me wrong, I've ruined some pretty good stuff, but you know, the trick is to figure out how to cook certain things. So the Jack, you know, it's a little tricky, but a lot of it has to do with how you clean it. You got to get the blood veins out of it and clean it out. Make it a nice clean fish. And then again, I soak them in salt water overnight. That tends to take out any distinct flavor, blood, or anything like that. So that works out really well. The wild mushrooms softened up perfectly. You wouldn't even know they had been dehydrated. And they're just a great add to it. So again, greens, potatoes, wild mushrooms, wild fish, wild forage stew. And man, absolutely beautiful night. I would wager right now it's about 78 degrees, no humidity. The breeze has pretty much went away. I got a nice fire going. The bugs aren't bad. I mean, there's a few mosquitoes that have found me, but I mean, overall, they're just not bad. And the smoke, the little breeze there is pushing towards my hammock. So I'm smoking out that side of the, gently smoking out that side of the camp, which is great. That's another trick. You know, if you're new to all this, you know, you guys that do this all the time, you'll know this trick. But for those of you that are new and are learning these things, if you get a good fire going, go to the woods and get some green leaves. Doesn't matter what kind. Stay away from anything like poison ivy, poison oak, of course. But I mean, you know, oak leaves, pine leaves, whatever. Just green leaves, not dry leaves. And put the green leaves, and truthfully, the pine leaves aren't as good because they burn up so much because of the sap in them. Really, you're looking for like maple, oak. Here are the palm fronds. If they're green, will work. Anything green. And you put that on top of your fire, and that'll create smoke because, again, that green leafy matter will burn slowly and create a lot of smoke. That'll smoke out your camp. Let that do that for a little bit. That'll help clean out and keep back the mosquitoes a little bit. And then when it clears up, get some good wood on the fire and you know, get your nice fire burning, and that'll help keep those mosquitoes and other insects at bay. So again, if you've done this a lot, you know that, but for those of you just starting, that's a great little tip. It's a, you know, there's a couple of things out here that a lot of times will keep people from doing this type of stuff. Bugs are certainly one of them. People think about going out in the woods and all the insects and stuff like that. So that's why I sleep in a hammock. I'm off the ground. I'm comfortable. I'm dry. I'm warm. You know, I put a sleeping pad in the sleeping bag so I'm warm. So I don't have any worries there. You know, I bring bug spray. I smoke the camp a little bit with some green matter, you know, just to try to keep them down. And I bring extra clothing. So my pack, you know, a survivalist or someone who's going for light packs, they would not like my pack. It's heavy, but it's not too heavy that I can't carry it. So I pack it in, and I'm comfortable. I've got a pillow. I've got a extra thick sleeping bag. I bring in, you know, the cookings for a forager stew, and I like being comfortable. I don't want to be miserable. Again, don't get me wrong. There's times when I do things just to practice my skills. I'll try to start fire with flint, or I don't do 2 sticks. I don't know. I don't know if anyone ever started fire with 2 sticks, but I'm sure they did. But I'm not the guy, so so I use, you know, I'll do flint and steel, whatever. But you know, I keep it pretty easy, and I just keep things simple. I'm out here to really relax and enjoy it. I don't know if you can hear that right now, but the beautiful sounds of the evening. That's what I'm here for. Man, it just drains the stress out of me. So if you haven't done this, or if you're just getting started and you're nervous about it, get out and do it. Find somewhere close to home. Find a friend if you're not comfortable enough that'll take you out. Go on a forum and find somebody who camps. And heck, if you're in this area of Florida, Naples, Florida, you know, message me. I'll go out with you. What the heck? And you know, just find somebody that you can go with, that you can learn about this stuff, and because I'll tell you what, man, once you do it, it's awesome. So I'm gonna eat my stew before it gets cold, and then I'm gonna enjoy this little bit of fire, because again, I didn't have much wood, so I'm gonna enjoy this before it's gone. So I'll see you in a bit. Well, guys, man, it's been a great evening. The dinner was fabulous. I just love coming up with those creations. That's not a recipe I found anywhere. That's just at home. I got wild mushrooms, I got wild fish, I got some wild harvested seasonings. Let's throw it all together and let's make a stew out of it. So that made it even better. It's an absolute beautiful evening. The wind has completely died down. The sky is clear. Traffic has died down. There's very little noise, just the sounds of the night. So I'm going to take advantage of that and enjoy the darkness and get a little bit of sleep. I'll see you guys in the morning. Maybe we'll do a little exploring. We'll see. Morning, everybody. Not sure what time it is. Must be getting close to 7 o'clock. Man, it was a beautiful night. Got down to about 60 degrees. Perfect sleeping temperature. Especially wrapped up in this sleeping bag and on the sleeping pad. Pretty quiet night for Halloween. No goblins or ghouls bothered me, and no trick-or-treaters stopped by, so all in all, pretty quiet night. None of the local bandits came in to mess with my stuff, so that was nice. So this morning I've just been sitting here listening to the birds wake up, which is kind of nice. The traffic was quiet last night. After about 10 o'clock it got real quiet. And then I suppose it's about 5 o'clock this morning when it started to, everybody started to fire back up again. So it's been nice. Been laying here listening to the birds wake up, and I'll probably do that a little bit more, and then I'm going to get up and I don't know, might take that walk. So I'll see you in a bit. Sun's just starting to come up. I just love an early morning walk. Although the dew was heavy last night. Good example of why that tarp is so important. My shoes are getting a little wet right out of the gate, which is fine. It's an absolutely beautiful morning. Like I said, it's about 61, 62 degrees now. Slept really good last night. You know, the standard tossing and turning when you're fighting the sleeping bag and the sleeping pad in a hammock. That's pretty much par for the course, but other than that, slept very good. Figured I'd take a little bit of a walk here and just see if any of the native wildlife is up and about yet. Oh, the flowers. That mushroom, okay. Kind of interesting. Should be harvesting beauty berries today. Those pretty. All the way back in there. Quite the pile of them. Look at that Greenbria, guys. Look at the edible end on that guy. That is huge. Just a reminder, check out the leaves. The veins start at the base and run all the way up to the tip. And you can see they've got the tassels on them. And then leaves on the left side, leaves on the right side, leaves on the left side, leaves on the right side. So alternating leaves. That's your that's what you're looking for. It's a healthy looking guy. So those leaves are edible. That shoot is edible. But something fairly large through here. There's some tracks in here. It doesn't look like a cat print. I wonder, maybe a coyote? That is one big snail. Oh, look at the bird's been feeding. Yeah, one of the diving birds must have pulled him out of the water. There's water over here, and every now and again you come across a spot where it's a little more deep and open, and you can actually see the fish jumping, not jumping but surfacing, and most of the time it's those. Here they come. Sandhills. There they go. Just a squawking. Sandhill Cranes. Can always hear them a mile away. I don't know if you can hear them. Of course, they won't do it when the camera's on. There's what these birds are feeding on down here. Catfish. You can hear them splashing around out here. Oh, there's one. They are, I would imagine, just thick in here because the water is pulled back from the woods into these little ponds, and that pulls the fish back into them. I would wager you could throw a net in here and bring out quite a few. Some people hand fish them, so they come out and they just throw little lines on the bottom and they pull them out. There you go. It's hard to see them there. Anyway, kind of interesting. There's also Mayan cichlid in here. There's another big snail shell. There's also Mayan cichlid in here. I would wager there's probably tilapia in there too. That stays wet throughout the year. So again, as the water pulls out of the woods, it pulls the fish in back into these little ponds. Good feasting for the birds. One of these days I'll bring my fishing pole back here and see what's really in there. I'm sure there's gar in there too. That's kind of interesting, guys. This is a rock just randomly laying here in the trail. There's a little fragment of it there. But look at the little pieces of seashell and fossilized seashell embedded in here. Yeah, kind of interesting. I think, anyway. There's pennywort all along here. Mixed in with a little Gouda Cola. Of course, they're both in the same family, just a little bit different in appearance and flavor and use. Pennywort we could use for green juice, or heck, we could just throw that in our breakfast this morning. This guy just scared the crap out of me. Stand here looking at some greens, and he moved and some bark fell and just scared the crap out of me because it was loud. That is a big bird. It's like a big turkey buzzard. Oh, look at that beaut. Look at that. Oh, wow, is he soft. That's a beautiful mountain. Just him. A couple odds and ends along the back side of the log, but that's it. Morning, guys. Got one above my head, too. How we doing this morning? Yeah, I know you're up there. Don't poop. You never know who you're going to meet along the trail. He's hiding. He is hiding. Pretty dry. It's pretty well hidden in there, though. That's probably why he made it this far. Home again, zippity zip. Or at least home for last night. Hung everything up last night. Protected from the raccoons. Seems to have worked. Well, guys, that was an awesome walk. What a great way to start the morning. You know, I always say I'm going to take an early morning walk, and then by the time I get up and have coffee and breakfast and get ready and drive to wherever I want to hike, it's now it's 10 o'clock, it's 11 o'clock. If I get lucky, I can do an 8 o'clock. So being able to just pop out of bed here early in the morning and just go for a walk, it's just fabulous, especially out in a place like this, just filled with so much beauty. I didn't see anything for deer, or I didn't see my panther I would have liked to have seen. I did get spooked a couple times by stuff off in the brush, but nothing I could see. They ran off too quick. A lot of birds, though, a lot of beautiful flowers. The fish were feeding this morning, and it's just absolutely gorgeous day. And so now that I've done that, I'm going to heat up. I've got some eggs and potatoes to heat up for breakfast and a tortilla to wrap it in. I'm going to tear down camp, and then I'm going to call it a day because tomorrow is time to get back to work. So, but this has been a great trip. You know, it's interesting that I almost didn't do this trip like I told you yesterday. I really procrastinated this until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and had really kind of convinced myself I wasn't going to do it. You know, it's too much work, too much trouble, blah, blah, blah. I got work coming up. And that happens sometimes, you know, with COVID, and like for myself down with, on disability for a couple months. And, each of us all, we deal with our own stuff, whether it's family issues, personal anxiety, depression. There's just a laundry list of things that can give us what my grandmother would have called a good case of butt stuckums. Your butt is stuck to the couch or to the chair, and it seems like too much work to go do the things that you truly enjoy. That last kayak trip where I went out and got a sheep's head and then harvested some greens, brought them home and cooked them. That was the same thing that day. I had myself completely convinced right till the time I got in that kayak that I was not going to do it. And I did it, and it was wonderful. I had myself convinced that I was going to walk out to this camp just to see if it was underwater. Probably not going to camp. Totally convinced myself that I wasn't going to do this, and yet I did. I decided to do it, to spend the night, as long as I was here, and it turned out to be an amazing evening. I slept great. The temperature was great for sleeping last night. I got a great evening walk last night, had a nice dinner here, the forager stew, and then a great walk this morning. I saw a lot of mushrooms and flowers and birds. I found apple snail shells, and so it was I'm just really, really glad that I drug myself out of the house and made myself do this, because the truth is, once we get out here, typically we really enjoy it. So, for any of you out there that are going through something, that are just feeling like it's too much work to get out and do those things you enjoy, I'm telling you, don't force yourself to do it. Just force yourself to put your gear in the car and go somewhere where you could do it if you wanted to. Get your feet in the water, or take a walk in the woods by that campsite you've been eyeballing, and suddenly you'll find yourself kind of turning the corner, and it's well worth it. So I got to break this down, and then I got to head back and check on Dozer, and he's probably going to be pretty ticked I didn't bring him tonight, but it was kind of nice for one night not having to worry about where he's sleeping or what's going on with him. So it was, as much as I love having him with, it was kind of a nice reprieve. So thanks a lot, you guys, for coming along. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know I did. I put together a couple shorts I'll put up on YouTube, just kind of some identification shorts on a couple plants. Nothing real fancy, but I'll get those out pretty soon. And again, thanks for tuning in. If you like it, please like. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Please share. Whatever you can do to get them out there. That's awesome. I love doing them, and people comment all the time they like watching them. So as long as that happens, I'll probably keep doing them. Sorry guys, I had some camera issues there. Never fails. Anyway, like I said, thanks a lot for tuning in, and really appreciate you guys watching. Like, share, subscribe, you know the routine. And hopefully next time I see you, I'll have Dozer with me, and we'll be out doing something wild.